Throughout history, humans have done a pretty good job of exploring planet Earth. In fact, it almost feels like a natural instinct. From the early days of discovering new lands to today's travel bug that pushes people to see the world firsthand, our need for adventure has never faded. Back in the 15th century, Leonardo da Vinci created intricate maps using just ink and paper, handing them to the rulers of his time. Fast forward to today, and Google has mapped nearly every inch of the planet using satellites, low-flying planes, and street-level cameras to capture every corner. Yet, despite all this technological progress, some places remain largely uncharted, hidden, untouched, and waiting to be explored. And that fact alone is enough to ignite the curiosity of every traveler and adventurer. These 15 places are rare, mysterious, and almost too strange to be real, and trust us, you won't believe your eyes when you see them. Number 15. Lake Vostok, Antarctica. A lake hidden beneath nearly 4 kilometers of ice doesn't seem possible, yet Lake Vostok has existed in complete isolation for millions of years. First detected in the 1960s by a Russian pilot, it remained just a strange anomaly until deeper research confirmed an enormous subglacial lake, completely cut off from air, sunlight, and everything the surface world depends on. The real shock? Well, scientists found signs of life. Microscopic, but living and breathing. In a place where freezing temperatures and zero oxygen should make survival impossible, something is managing to exist. That alone is enough to rethink what we know about extreme environments, but the problem is reaching it without ruining it. Drilling too deep risks contaminating water that hasn't been exposed to modern bacteria, chemicals, or even air for millennia. Until technology catches up with curiosity, Lake Vostok stays locked away, holding answers that might redefine what survival really means, if we ever figure out how to reach them safely, which we'll not. Number 14. Northern Patagonia, Chile. Some landscapes feel like they weren't made for humans, and northern Patagonia is one of them. And we're not kidding at all. Ice fields stretch for miles, rivers cut through untouched valleys, and jagged peaks stand as reminders that Mother Nature makes the rules here. Until the 1980s, there wasn't even a road leading into this part of Chile. It stayed wild, mostly unexplored, with terrain that shifts like a flash, glaciers that reshape the land, forests so dense they swallow paths overnight, and weather that can turn brutal in minutes. Even today, getting in isn't an easy job. What looks like a peaceful stretch of nature is actually one of the most deadly, unpredictable landscapes on Earth. The ice fields here are second in size only to Antarctica, and hidden within the region are thermal springs, deep caves, and places that no map fully covers. It's not a tourist spot. It's a reminder that some parts of the world still belong only to themselves. Number 13. Gangkhar Puensum, Bhutan. A mountain this massive should have climbers lined up to conquer it, but Gangkhar Puensum stands untouched, not because it's too difficult, but because it's off limits. At 7,570 meters, it's the tallest unclimbed mountain in the world, not due to lack of effort, but because Bhutan decided it's sacred. It wasn't even officially mapped until 1922, and early explorers failed to locate it due to inaccurate cartography. When climbers did finally attempt an expedition, the Bhutanese government shut it down, banning all ascents in 1994. The belief is that the mountain is home to powerful spirits, and disturbing it would bring consequences. Unlike Everest, which has become a high-altitude traffic jam, this peak remains as it has for centuries. No human footprints, no flags, no artificial claims of victory. In a world where nearly every summit has been reached, Gangkhar Puensum remains a mystery that might never be solved. Number 12. Mount Roraima, Venezuela, Brazil, Guyana. Mountains aren't supposed to look like this. Roraima isn't just high, It's an ancient plateau that rises straight out of the rainforest, its sheer cliffs forming an isolated world at the top. Covered in mist and shaped by constant rainfall, it's the inspiration behind Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. The indigenous Paiman people have always believed the mountain holds something otherworldly, once home to a tree that bore all the world's fruits before it was cut down. The terrain only adds to the legend. Climbing it isn't just difficult. It's nearly impossible outside of one single route that was first used in 1884 and remains the only real way up. Even then, most of the mountain's surface is untouched, holding deep caves, rare plants, and landscapes that look more alien than anything found on the ground below. It's one of the last places that still feels like it belongs to another time. If you love space things, then you're gonna love this palace too. Number 11. Vale do Javari, Brazil. Modern civilization reaches almost everywhere, but Vale do Javari is one of the rare exceptions. Tucked deep in the Amazon, this is one of the last places on Earth where people live entirely off the land, untouched by technology, industry, or even outside knowledge. It's home to at least 14 uncontacted tribes, their way of life unchanged for centuries. What protects them isn't just remoteness, but the landscape itself. Rivers flood unpredictably, erasing paths and cutting off access. The dense jungle swallows anything unfamiliar, and strict protections from the Brazilian government keep outsiders away. Entering without permission isn't just illegal. It's a potential threat to those inside, whose immune systems have never been exposed to modern diseases. It's not just an uncharted jungle. It's a living testament to how some parts of the world still exist, as they always have, untouched by time, and likely to stay that way for as long as possible. Number 10. Doong Cave, Vietnam. Doong isn't just a cave, it's a world of its own. At over 5.5 miles long and big enough to fit a skyscraper, this underground giant is the largest known cave on Earth. Inside, there's a river, a jungle, and even its own weather system, making it feel more like an alien planet than a natural formation. Despite its size, Doong remained hidden from the outside world until 2009. The first explorers were forced to turn back after encountering the Great Wall of Vietnam, a 200-foot calcite barrier deep within the cave. Finally, they climbed past it, revealing even more massive chambers beyond. And here's the kicker. This cave is just one of over 150 in the region, with many still unexplored. Whatever else is lurking in Vietnam's underground labyrinth, we've barely scratched the surface. Number 9. Mount Namuli, Mozambique. Mount Namuli isn't just a mountain, it's an isolated time capsule. Rising 7,936 feet into the clouds, this remote peak is home to species found nowhere else on Earth. Scientists call places like these sky islands, where life has evolved in complete isolation for thousands of years. But getting here isn't easy. There are no roads, no marked trails, and definitely no easy way up. In 2014, a team of biologists and rock climbers had to scale sheer cliffs just to reach its untouched habitats. What did they find? Rare plants, undiscovered species, and signs that Namuli is still hiding more secrets. With its extreme terrain and almost zero human interference, it's one of the last unexplored biological frontiers. If there's anywhere still holding creatures the world hasn't seen, it's somewhere in the misty heights of this mountain. All right, guys, now let's talk about Number 8. Arakan Mountains and Northern Triangle Forests. Deep in the easternmost reaches of the Himalayas, this region is as wild as it gets. Thick subtropical forests sprawl over jagged mountains so remote that even satellite mapping struggles to track them. It's one of the least disturbed ecosystems in Asia, which explains why it's home to some of the world's rarest wildlife. This is the planet's largest tiger preserve, where massive, stealthy predators roam unseen. Alongside them, red pandas, gibbons, and rare black bears live in near-total isolation. Myanmar's Kachin state, part of this region, remains off-limits due to both extreme terrain and ongoing political instability. For biologists, it's a dream, an untouched ecosystem likely teeming with undiscovered species. If there's any place left on Earth where lost jungle temples might still exist and guarded by something with sharp teeth, it's here. Number 7. New Hebrides Trench, Pacific Ocean. The ocean still holds some of its biggest secrets, and the New Hebrides Trench is one of them. Plunging 4.5 miles beneath the surface off the coast of Australia, this deep-sea canyon remained unexplored until 2013. When researchers finally sent robotic submersibles down, they weren't met with sunken ships or lost civilizations, but what they did find was just as strange. Prawns and eels unlike anything seen in other trenches, with alien-like features that defied expectations. This trench is part of a vast, mostly uncharted underwater network, meaning entire ecosystems and undiscovered species could be hiding below. Until more missions explore its depths, the New Hebrides remains one of the ocean's last great mysteries. Number 6. Star Mountains, Papua New Guinea. If there's anywhere that feels completely untouched, it's the Star Mountains of Papua New Guinea. Rising from dense rainforests in one of the most rugged corners of the planet, this region is almost impossible to navigate. The crown jewel? The Hindenburg Wall, a 30-mile stretch of limestone plateaus that towers over the jungle like something from another world. It's a place where nature has been working in secret for thousands of years, far from human interference. When researchers finally made it here in 2013, they found over 1,100 animal and plant species, nearly 100 of which were completely new to science. That's an absurd number for a single expedition. The sheer isolation of this place has allowed evolution to do its thing without interruption, and it's likely that even more undiscovered species are hiding in the forests, caves, and plateaus. For now, the Star Mountains remain one of Earth's last true frontiers, vast, wild, and barely touched. Number 5. Namib Desert, Namibia. 55 million years is a long time for anything to survive, but the Namib Desert has been around that long and shows no signs of slowing down. This is the world's oldest desert, predating the Amazon, the Himalayas, and basically everything modern civilization takes for granted. It stretches along the Atlantic coast of southern Africa, its landscape defined by rolling sand dunes so massive they make skyscrapers look small. Dune 7, one of the tallest, stands over 1,250 feet high, shifting and reshaping itself as the wind carves through the land. Despite the brutal conditions, life here has adapted in bizarre ways. The fog-basking beetle survives by drinking moisture from the early morning mist, while the nearly translucent Namib desert gecko glows under UV light. This place is ancient, extreme, and still full of mysteries. While the rest of the world changes, the Namib Desert remains a time capsule, untouched by anything but wind and time. Number 4. Sakha Republic, Russia. If there's a place that defines extreme, it's the Sakha Republic, covering a fifth of Russia, roughly the size of India. This is one of the coldest inhabited regions on Earth. Temperatures in winter can drop to negative 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and with the entire region sitting on permafrost, even the ground itself is frozen solid. Despite the brutal conditions, life here thrives. Reindeer move through the tundra. The Lena River Delta becomes a critical breeding ground for migratory birds, and deep in the ice, scientists keep finding perfectly preserved woolly mammoth remains. The cold has acted like a natural freezer, keeping these prehistoric creatures intact for thousands of years, so much so that some scientists are seriously considering cloning them. Between the unpredictable climate, hidden ice caves, and potential ancient discoveries, Sakha remains a place where the past, present and future collide. Number 3. North Sentinel Island, India. Some places stay uncharted because nature makes them too dangerous. Others because the people living there want nothing to do with the outside world. North Sentinel Island is one of the latter. Hidden in the Bay of Bengal, this jungle-covered island is home to the Sentinelese, an indigenous group that has lived there for over 55,000 years without contact with the modern world. And they plan to keep it that way. Anyone who approaches the island is met with a volley of arrows and spears. Even the Indian government enforces a strict 3-mile exclusion zone to protect both the Sentinelese and outsiders. Almost nothing is known about their way of life. Estimates put their population anywhere between 50 and 300, but beyond that, their culture, language, and traditions remain a mystery. In an age where nearly everything is mapped and shared, North Sentinel Island is one of the last places completely off limits. Number 2. Northern Greenland. Greenland is already one of the most remote places on Earth, but its far north is a level beyond that. Even when Vikings settled the island's southern coast around 1000 CE, the north remained an untouched mystery. It's so cold, barren, and hard to reach that even savvy explorers struggle to map it properly. The landscape here is constantly shifting, and thanks to climate change, new islands are emerging as glaciers retreat, revealing land that has been buried for thousands of years. Greenland's ice sheet covers about 80% of the island, with some parts more than a mile thick. What's hiding under all that ice? Some believe there are ancient landscapes, frozen lakes, or even microbial life waiting to be discovered. While Inuit communities have lived along the coasts for centuries, the far north remains an untouched frontier, one that could hold answers about climate change, prehistoric migration, or things we haven't even begun to consider. Number 1. Cape Melville, Australia. If there's anywhere on Earth that feels like it belongs in a different time, it's Cape Melville. This isolated rainforest in northern Queensland is completely cut off from the rest of the world by enormous granite boulders, some stacked hundreds of feet high. These rock formations act as a natural fortress, making Cape Melville almost impossible to reach unless you have a helicopter. For centuries, this place remained unexplored. That changed in 2013 when scientists finally made their way in and immediately discovered 3 brand new species of animals that had never been seen before. Among them was the Cape Melville leaf-tailed gecko, a prehistoric-looking reptile that seems straight out of a sci-fi movie. Given how little of the area has actually been studied, there's a good chance even more undiscovered species are hiding in its dense forests. If there's proof that Earth still has secrets, Cape Melville is it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.